Hi, my name is Amelia Epp, and I'm an art teacher with Artists for Kids in the North Vancouver School District. Welcome to the Gordon Smith Art Gallery. This year we're sharing with you a video series called AFK ArtReach. And most of the videos in this series are inspired by the theme of play and by the exhibition and artworks that are in the gallery around me. And so in these videos, we share with you artworks and art activities, and these can be done in school, at home, and in many cases outdoors. And we'll be sharing these videos with you every other Wednesday, and they will be posted on the AFK website. Today I'll share with you this artwork by a Canadian artist named Ashback. And inspired by this artwork, which is called Between Friends, we'll consider how we can contribute to environments where we all feel safe and supported, and where we feel like we're able to play and take risks. And we'll consider the First Peoples principles of learning, and specifically the idea that learning is relational and focused on connectedness. And also that learning involves recognizing the consequences of one's actions. And we'll also consider the following questions. How can we represent our personal histories and stories through symbols? And how can we contribute to environments in which we feel safe to play? Take a moment to look closely at this artwork. Notice the animals that are included. How are they arranged? How are they connected to one another? And what else do you notice about the composition? Notice how the artist has used symmetry in this design. This means that if you were to fold this image down the center, each half of the design would be the same. Why might the artist have used this design principle? And what feeling does it give to the artwork? We could also use the word balance to talk about this artwork. Notice the colors and shapes used. The artwork is called Between Friends. What does this tell you about the artwork and the artist's intentions? Here at Artists for Kids, we think about this artwork as the perfect introduction to this exhibition that's all about play. To us, this artwork symbolizes the trust and the safety and the respect that can be part of relationships such as friendships and mentorships, and that enable us to play and to take risks. As a warm-up for our art making activity today, I recommend that you head outside. You can see that it's a pretty wet and rainy day today, but I managed to find an area that is covered. And so today we're going to experiment with finding objects that can symbolize different aspects of our identities, our stories, and our personal histories. And we're also going to be inspired by a photography trend that's called knolling, or flat lay photography. And so in this style of photography, people take different objects. They could be natural objects like rocks or leaves, or it could be the contents of a person's bag or even designer clothing. And people arrange these objects in a way on a flat surface and usually a solid background. So these objects are arranged in a way that's very balanced and symmetrical. And the objects are arranged at 90-degree angles from one another. And then people photograph these arrangements directly from above. And if you're interested in seeing some examples of these kinds of photos, you could do a Google image search or search the hashtag knolling on Instagram. So to experiment with making your own kinds of arrangements like these, I recommend that you head out, find 10 or more natural objects, of course being careful not to disturb the natural environment or any gardens. Here you can see my little collection of objects. And then play around with arranging them at 90-degree angles from one another and in a way that is balanced. And then if you have a way to take a photo, do that directly from above, or you could make a sketch and then leave your objects in place for others to find later in the day. You'll need some simple materials to create your artwork today. You'll need a piece of paper, and mine is a bit thicker, and it's about 12 inches by 9 inches in size. And if possible, you'll need a device to take a photo with, as well as a printer that you can print out in black and white on 8.5 by 11 paper. You'll, if possible, need a sheet of tracing paper that is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. You'll need a pencil and an eraser, a bit of tape, and a drawing tool for outlining. I used a Micron ink pen, but you could also use a Sharpie, a black marker, or a black pencil crayon. And you'll need some kind of material to add color with. I used watercolor paints and brushes. Recently, on September 30th, it was Orange Shirt Day. And this is an event where in our schools and in our communities, we honor the Indigenous children who were sent away to residential schools in Canada. And we learn about the impact and history of those schools and the continued impact that they have today. And Orange Shirt Day as an event grew out of a commemoration event for the St. Joseph Mission Residential School. And this commemoration event took place in the spring of 2013 in Williams Lake, BC. And at this event, a woman named Phyllis Webstad, who was a student at this residential school, shared a story. And she shared her experience of, as a 6-year-old, her first day at this residential school, and how her new shiny orange shirt, which had been given to her by her grandmother, was taken away from her. And Phyllis Webstad has shared, "The color orange has always reminded me of that, and how my feelings didn't matter, how no one cared, and how I felt like I was worth nothing. All of us little children were crying, and no one cared." Phyllis Webstad has also shared that the feelings of worthlessness and insignificance were ingrained in her from her first day at the mission. And she says that this affected the way that she lived her life for many years. If you'd like to learn more about Orange Shirt Day, and if you'd like to hear more about Phyllis Webstad's story in her own words, you can visit the website orangeshirtday.org. Today, when we think about the concept of play, we can think about who has the right to play and what kind of environments do we need in order to feel safe and supported and nurtured. In Phyllis Webstad's stories of her experiences at residential school, she describes a learning environment that did not provide support or safety for students to learn or to play. And she talks about how her experiences in this environment continue to impact her in her life as an adult. And so on September 30th, we wear an orange shirt as a symbol. And so this orange shirt symbolizes the idea that every child matters and that we all have a responsibility to learn about the history and impacts of residential schools. And we also have a role to contribute to communities and to learning environments that are safe and supportive and welcoming. Inspired by the symbol of the orange shirt, today when we make our art, we will think about choosing symbols to represent our own identities and stories and personal histories. And we can think about these as things that we all carry with us. And these things shape the way that we navigate the world, the way that we interact with other people, and the kinds of opportunities that we have. And we could think about this as an invisible backpack that we all carry with us when we enter a room or when we enter an interaction or a new situation. And we need to remember that we don't know what other people carry inside their invisible backpacks. We don't know what experiences people may have had or continue to have. To make our artwork today, we will begin by choosing 6 to 8 different objects. And these objects are going to act as symbols to represent different aspects of our identity, our stories, and our personal histories. And some of these things can be very personal and maybe not things that we want to just share with everyone. The great thing about using symbols in artwork is that we can keep information private or personal. We can use these symbols and then we get to choose how much information we share with others about the symbols that we have chosen. So here you can see the objects that I chose. I chose some items of clothing and some pieces of jewelry to represent different individuals in my life and different family members who've played an important role in shaping who I am today. And I chose some other objects to represent my own personal belief systems. I included this little notebook or sketchbook to represent some of my ideas and experiences around learning and schooling, which I believe really shape who I am today and shape different paths I've taken and choices I've made in life. And I included this little Lego house to represent some of my ideas and experiences with home and housing when I was growing up and how I think about home today. And then I included these little wooden dolls, and this represents to me the idea of family and my experiences with family. And so thinking about the family that I grew up in and also the family that I created as I've gotten older. And one of the things I think about with family is the fact that I have grown up as a white settler Canadian. And with this comes different opportunities and privileges, which shape how I see the world and see others, and which shape opportunities for myself. Once you have chosen your 6 to 8 objects, you can now arrange them to create a composition. And to do this, we'll again be inspired by the idea of knolling or flat lay photography that we played with earlier outside. And so you can see when I arranged my objects, I considered the idea of balance, and I thought about arranging my objects so that they were at 90-degree angles from one another. And so once you have arranged your objects in a way that you're happy with, if you have access to a camera or some kind of device you can take a photo with, take a picture from above of your objects. If you don't have a camera, you could skip straight to making a drawing of these objects. But if you were able to take a picture, you could print this picture out. You just need a black and white version of it on an 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper. And then you could use a technique for transferring your image onto your final piece of paper where you're going to be making your artwork. So to do this, you can take a piece of tracing paper, tape it down on top of your printed image, and use a nice dark pencil to outline all of your objects. And you can include some details within those objects too, perhaps some patterns or other important lines and details. And then once you've finished tracing, take your tracing paper off of your printed image and then flip it over and place it onto the paper where you're going to make your final artwork. So your tracing paper should be face down. Those pencil lines that you created are now touching the paper that you want to make your artwork, your final artwork on. And you can tape this down so it doesn't wiggle around. And then take a nice thick dark pencil and start pressing very hard and kind of scribbling over the lines, the areas where your lines are that you drew of your objects. And so as you do this, you could peel just gently and carefully up your tracing paper and see that your lines now should be transferring to your piece of paper. And so this is a nice trick you can use for transferring images from one paper to another. And so continue to scribble and press hard over top of all of your lines until you've transferred all of the lines. And then carefully peel off your tape and take your tracing paper off. And so then the next step is to use a marker or a Sharpie or a dark black pencil crayon to outline all of the lines that you transferred, and to also capture any patterns or other lines inside of those objects as well. And then you could use an eraser to erase away any of the extra pencil lines that are still showing, and this will really clean up your design at this point. And then you can use some kind of material to add color. I used watercolor to add color to my final artwork, and you can see my final design here. Once you complete your artwork, you could think about ways that you might share it with other people. For example, you could discuss your work with a partner and share with your partner some of the symbols that you chose and what they mean to you. You could also write about your artwork in a sketchbook and write about the symbols that you included in it. And so hopefully in carrying out this artwork, we can consider the different experiences and life stories that we all bring with us when we enter a school or a classroom or any interaction. And we can remember that we don't know what other people are carrying in their invisible backpacks. And so we can consider in our interactions with others the way that we impact others and the way that we could bring compassion and respectfulness to our interactions. We would absolutely love to see the artwork that you've created, and if you wanted to share it, you could post it on Instagram using the hashtag AFK ArtReach. You could also send us images of your artwork by email. Please do check back in the coming weeks for future AFK ArtReach videos, which will be posted on the AFK website. Thanks for joining me today.